Have you ever heard of a love so powerful it brought down an entire kingdom? This isn't a fairy tale. It's the incredible true story of Lola Montez, the woman whose scandalous affair with a king led to a revolution. Stick around because you won't believe how this story unfolds. So, who was Lola Montez? Well, she wasn't even named Lola, and she definitely wasn't Spanish. She was born Eliza Gilbert in Ireland. But Eliza was far too ordinary for her ambitions. So, she reinvented herself as Lola Montez, a fiery Spanish dancer. She set off across Europe, but here's the thing, her dancing wasn't actually that great. What made her famous was her breathtaking beauty, her unapologetically bold personality, and a temper that was legendary. She was a hurricane in human form, leaving behind a trail of scandals, broken hearts, and even public duels. She was a celebrity in an era before the term was even common, and everyone was talking about her. In 1846, her journey brought her to Munich, the capital of Bavaria. And this is where our story truly ignites. She performed for King Ludwig I. He was 60 years old, seasoned ruler, a patron of the arts, and completely, utterly captivated by the 25-year-old dancer. The moment they met, their connection was electric and obsessive. The king, who was supposed to be a symbol of stability, fell head over heels. He showered Lola with unbelievable gifts, a luxurious palace, a huge allowance, and a title. Despite fierce opposition from his family, his government, and the public, he made her the Countess of Landsfeld. This wasn't just a quiet affair behind palace walls. Lola wasn't the type to stay in the shadows. Suddenly, this Irish-born dancer held immense political power in Bavaria, and she wasn't afraid to use it. She became the king's closest advisor, and her influence was disastrous. She would swagger into government meetings, openly giving her opinions on matters of state. She convinced the king to dismiss ministers who she didn't like, and championed liberal policies that angered the conservative establishment. In a particularly arrogant move, she even pushed for the closure of the Bavarian Academy of Sciences, a prestigious institution, simply because its members opposed her. Lola treated Bavaria like her personal playground. She was known for causing public disturbances, getting into brawls, and feuding with anyone who dared to cross her. There's one famous story that perfectly captures her audacity. One day, a customs official had the nerve to question her passport. Lola didn't argue or try to reason with him. Instead, she grabbed a pair of scissors and, right there in front of a shocked crowd, snipped off his long, official-looking beard. This was the kind of brazen behavior that made her infamous. She saw rules as suggestions and authority as something to be challenged, not respected. As you can imagine, the people of Bavaria were furious. Their king was completely under the spell of this foreign woman who was meddling in their government and acting like she owned the country. The nobles were insulted, the church was scandalized, and the average citizen was fed up. The situation was a ticking time bomb. It finally exploded in 1848. A wave of revolutions was sweeping across Europe, and the unrest in Munich, fueled directly by Lola's presence, boiled over. Widespread riots broke out in the streets. People were chanting not just for reform but for the removal of Lola Montez. King Ludwig was faced with an impossible choice: his crown or his mistress. The protests grew so intense that he couldn't ignore them any longer. The entire political system was on the verge of collapse because of his infatuation. In the end, to save his kingdom from a full-blown revolution, he was forced to abdicate the throne. He gave up his power, all for a woman he had known for less than 2 years. And what happened to Lola? She was immediately banished from Bavaria. She fled the country, but her story was far from over. She continued her scandalous career, moving on to America and even Australia, always creating headlines wherever she went. She remained a controversial and fascinating figure until the very end. But she is forever remembered in history as the dancer whose beauty and ambition were so powerful, they literally overthrew a European monarchy. An incredible, unbelievable, and absolutely true story. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as wild as I did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's most fascinating characters. See you next time.